So let's get right into it. I'm looking at as I'm going through the story, I'm like, wait a minute. He was born in 1939 in Stuttgart, Germany.
Wasn't Stuttgart, but was Germany.
Outside of Stuttgart in the wine area, where wine... And apparently it's right next to the Luxembourg in France on that area where it's perfect market to create wine. So to go from there to where you are today, I want to first go into the story, how everything got started. When you were born, what was Germany going through?
Start of the war. Beginning of the war, 39. In fact, my father was drafted late 39 and came back in between, but left permanently, if you will, in 41. I got to know him. I got to meet him the next time when I was 7.
So you meet your father first time at 7 years old?
Well, consciously met him. I mean,
I get that.
I was a baby. Yeah. Well, no. In fact, I was playing with another kid in the mud heap somewhere. When in the village, I lived in a village. Somebody came running. Go home. Your dad came home.
Go home. Your dad came home.
So I ran down the street. Go home was a couple of 100 yards. Run there, and there was a bunches of people assembled already. Every neighbor, everybody in town. That was the news when a guy came back from prison camp, And it was, and he just came back, and I went through the masses. I knew it was him. It's a guy with a tattered uniform, and everybody else wasn't. So I got in, and I looked at him, and I said that, and then he knew who I was.
What was that reaction?
Oh well, shock and moment, and people crying and so on. That is what you remember, the extremes you remember in the moment.
Do you remember that day till today?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
It's pretty wild.
No kidding, yeah.
I mean, I was born in Iran in 78. So when the revolution happened, and we left in 89. So living in that environment impacts your life in a big way as a kid.
No doubt.
What did it do to you?
Well, I don't exactly understand because I was there and with 11 years old, and somehow that must have all have an impact. With 11 years, I went to my parents and said, I want to go to work. I want to work in a hotel.
At 11 years old?
Yeah, and there was no hotel in the village. Never been in a hotel. I'd never been in a restaurant.
So how do you know this? Are you watching a movie? Are you reading books?
Everybody is wondering. I must have read something, exactly. My mother never forgave me because, never forgave herself because she then inquired, how are we going to do that? When I kept on begging and crying. And so somebody said, well, he should start in a very good hotel. So they looked, what's the best hotel? Unfortunately, it was over 100 kilometers away. So at 14, I actually lived in a dorm room in that hotel. And all that was an impact of the environment where that came from. And we sat down often with my parents and tried to analyze it. There was no real answer.
No movie, no book, no person, no teacher.
Movie, there were none at the time. So are you kidding?
I know what I'm trying to find out about how do you, because I read somewhere as well that you said as early as 4 years old, you knew you wanted to be in the hotel business.
No, it was 11.
11 years old? Yeah, okay, yeah. So when I read this, Rob, where was it we read that said as early as 4 years old? I said 4 years old, for him to know at 4 years old. How does that happen?
No.
What was it like? Maybe, because today when we read about it, 39, Germany goes to war. In September. I think you're born April 25th. So 5 months.
January 10th.
January 10th. Okay, so you're born January 10th?
Yeah.
Okay, so January, online says April 25th, by the way. And I know you're pretty private with your,
yeah.
So January 10th you're born. Few months later the country goes to war. What is the conditions like where you're living? I know, of course, you don't remember that age, but...
Yes, you do, because there were such extremes. Pretty soon we went to sleep in the cellar. We broke the cellar wall in, so in case the house would collapse, we could go into the next neighbor, and so on. They were all connected. So my mother, my father joined the Nazi party because he had to, was working. My mother was a major negative. And let me give you a story that is hard to believe. My father, we didn't hear from him. My parents didn't hear from him. But my grandfather, who hated Nazis, every morning came to my house. He lived in a different house at 7 a.m., took the axe that was there from the wood chopping plant, and stayed behind the door and looked through the slot in the door, the old wooden door, because the chief Nazi went to work that morning. When he went to work, he stopped in the families where the son had fallen and informed them. And my grandfather was a unique character, said if our son died, he will die too. When he comes in here to report, he's going to die. So you think you don't know that as a kid? Opa is coming to take the axe. That was a normal daily routine. So you can't help but remember those things, you know. Or when there was the message that Hitler had been killed for a moment in the radio, my mother was in a grocery store buying grocery when it came, the Führer has been killed. For a moment that was out, and of course that changed a few minutes later. And my mother said, Gott sei Dank, thank God, it's time. She was arrested the next day.
Stop it.
Just for a day, because her uncle was a Nazi. So that's
my God.
That's what life was. There was nothing. But what was there at the same time, everything was still continue, still had something to eat. There still was kindergarten, even though when you had to walked into kindergarten, you had to greet the Hitler at the painting of Hitler. But it was all functioning somewhat. It's right after the war when nothing was functioning anymore. And there was a total breakdown because there was no control, there was nothing there. The interesting thing at the time, the Allies decided nobody who was a Nazi could work in a leadership role. Well, everybody who was in a leadership role, if you were running a water fund, you had to be a Nazi. You had to be a Nazi. Otherwise, you
killed.
So who do you put into these roles now? It was Patton, in fact, who said, no, we're not going to do that. We have to put the people back that understand the job. I mean, that's how, there was a total breakdown. There was no school. There was no transportation. There was nothing after the war, right after the war. So that was, and of course, those created such extreme moments that you do remember, no doubt.
Yeah, you see the inflation. There was some reports I saw that the price of bread could double every 2 hours, every 4 hours. Some weird stories that you would read about. So do you remember the day it was announced that Hitler died?
No, I don't remember, no. I only knew my mother was in trouble.
She got arrested.
Yeah.
And this was even the right one. This is a day that she thought he died, that he didn't die.
For the moment was announced. Stauffenberg, who tried to kill him, thought he was dead. He announced, and it was open. That's how everybody was exposed, because they got a message he died. Consequently, everybody that was part of the plot, 20,000, exposed themselves, took over in various towns, and were killed afterwards. That's how they knew they were all involved. That huge plot, yeah.
20,000.
Yeah.
How do you, because when I'm seeing you speak, or I watch your interviews, or I sit down with you right now, or you're coming up to me, read this book, I'm going to help you change your life. You're a very positive figure, right? Your intensity, your energy, you've been married for many years, you're a man of faith, you know, you speak in a very eloquent way. Even at that moment, were you staying positive? Was it your mom that helped you be positive?
My mom.
How would your mom make you positive?
Very positive about life, about everything.
In Germany at that time?
In Germany at the time.
Good for her.
For example, also, my dad, whom we didn't hear from for over a year because his group was behind the lines in Russia, so you didn't hear anything for well over a year. And we didn't know if he was alive or dead. He was alive in our house. My mother said, oh, that's a good job, I would tell Dad. Or don't do that, your dad won't like that. So he was constantly alive there. And she kept him in the house. And it was nearly like he was there, you know.
Wow.
So that was, and it's interesting, that's how mothers are. That's a mother. I mean, I told you when she took me to this job, which was far away from home. She knew I was very homesick, but I wanted to be there. But she wrote me a letter every day. If I didn't have one today, I had 2 tomorrow. Help me through.
What an amazing mother. What a great story.
Success is built on how you think. Influence is built on how you show up. Every detail matters, because presence speaks before you do. This is more than style. The future looks bright.
If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.